Hello everyone, and welcome to Vainu webinar. Today we'll be talking about sales ops, so sales operations. My name is Mikko. I'm one of the co-founders of Vainu, and together with me today we have two sales ops experts. We have Sander, who's VP Sales Ops at Benify, and then Adam, who's Sales Ops Manager at a company called GetAccept. Welcome both.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome, and briefly checking that everything works for the audience. Let's start by having a quick poll for the audience so that we know who do we have in the audience, how many of you are working in sales ops, and also if your company has sales ops function at the moment, because that's good background information for us when we discuss these topics. So I'm gonna launch a poll. Now everyone in the audience should see the poll. It's a very basic question. Does your company have sales ops team at the moment? If you do, please also indicate if you work in sales ops yourself. And if you don't have sales ops team in the company, then of course, please select that one. Let's wait for a few minutes. I can see 70% have already voted. So we'll give a few more seconds so that we collect all the answers and also share the results with you.
We love data.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to collect the data. While we're waiting for the final answers, this webinar will take between 45 minutes and 1 hour. We'll have a couple of polls, then we'll be starting with presentations from both Sander and Adam, and then it's a Q&A or roundtable discussion between us three. But I'm gonna close the poll now and set the results as well. So this is how it looks. So a little bit more than 20% are working in sales ops at the moment. So that's excellent. Most likely lots of good tips and best practices for you. Then 1/3 they have sales ops team at the moment, but people joining this webinar are not part of that team. And then a little bit less than 50% do not have sales ops team at the moment. So let's keep this in mind when we discuss, making sure that we also define and explain what sales ops is all about. Now I'm going to hide the results, and you should be able to see the screen again. But let's start with introductions. Sander, you also prepared a few slides, so maybe you can introduce yourself and give a short presentation what sales ops is all about at Benify.
Yes, thank you. All right, so my name is Sander Blomberg, working at a company called Benify, where I've been working for about 7 years today. Just if no one knows who Benify are, if someone doesn't know who we are a Swedish company headquartered here in Stockholm. We have about 400 employees with 12 offices around the globe. And basically what we're doing is that we are providing a SaaS platform within the compensation and benefits segment. And this is something that we today do on a global basis. Myself at Benify, I've done the whole sales journey. I started off as a junior sales consultant, like doing the phone calling and everything. And then I worked my way up the company ladder. Eventually, I had the whole sales office. And then I was asked to take a bigger role within the organization where I could also impact our largest clients. And then I took over a group that we call the advisory group. And what we are doing is that since our sales processes are so complex, involve so many stakeholders, we needed people who could act as experts and provide help to our salespeople and really like build solid, sustainable business cases, including ROIs, etc. So after doing that a couple of years, I realized that I'm not the only one, or we are not the only function working with sales support. There's like 10, 15 people at Benify scattered around different departments, different bosses. Everyone had their own agenda, their own priorities. and it was just simply not that efficient. So we decided to just consolidate all of this into one unit, and immediately after we did that, like, we really reaped the benefits. Suddenly we got a fantastic overview. We could really well, prioritize, strategize on what to do, on what to focus on. So it's been a huge success for us. So a little bit about what we're doing. This is a massive, full of points slide, but our core still very much lies within sales enablement. It's very hands-on. We still do advisory work with our biggest clients, providing business cases. We're also having 2 guys working full-time within bid management, meaning that they're answering RFPs, since many of our sales are done through RFPs. We're driving various kinds of sales development initiatives. It could be anything from just ensuring we have the best possible material, the best possible tools, so that everyone can do their job, but also like really challenge the status quo of how we're running our sales processes and enhance those topics. And I think the one pretty important role we have also is that since we know the sales organization, since we are like very much in the core of it, we can also really act as spokespersons within the rest of our organization and link everything together so that it's aligned in a good way. Also, we're working with lead generation, anything from, well, picking up the phone, setting up an actual meeting, to LinkedIn, HubSpot, all of that. And I think importantly also aligning Benify's messaging together with marketing, so that we are like one core company with one core message, which of course is very much altered depending on which market we are in. And finally, we do also own the whole tech stack that is relevant for sales, and with that information, CRM mainly, we are doing reporting, we're doing forecasting together with our sales director and CEO.
Very good. So a couple of follow-up questions briefly. So how many, Benify obviously is an enterprise product. How many salespeople do you have, and how many people working in sales ops at the moment?
We are 70 people within sales, and out of those 70, 10 people are working in sales operations. So it's quite big portion, I would say.
Yes, it's definitely one of the larger sales ops teams that I know of, because very often it's only 1 or 2 people. Do you only focus on new business, helping new business, or how much do you also spend time with existing customers and operations, sort of like customer success operations, or is it mainly new business ops, what you do?
It's mainly new business. We love new business, but yes, we are more and more getting involved in existing clients as well.
Excellent, excellent. Then Adam, similar presentation from you.
Yes, so thank you for the intro and for having me here, Mickey, really appreciate it. So my name is Adam. I'm working as a sales ops manager here at GetAccept, and just a brief introduction to what we do and what GetAccept does in general. So we have a sales platform where you can send, track, engage, and also sign all your types of sales collateral, all the way from the first presentation to proposal, and then finally signing and getting that integrated into the CRM as well. But I joined GetAccept about 4 years ago, so briefly when we just started the company, and was one of the first employees. And I started off with various roles within sales. I started off as an account executive, similar to Sander, doing the full sales journey, being a team leader. And then when I think the start was when we raised our Series A of $7 million, where we were really going to hit the gas and to expand. So we went from 30 to over 100 employees during 2019. So that was a huge growth. And we knew that we needed someone and something to structure and make the sales organization strive towards the same direction, just as Sander talked about earlier. So that's why we initiated that role. And we're not 10 within sales ops, it's only me. I thought just going to share you a couple of things that I do in my role, the KPIs, the toolbox that we use, and also what kind of routines that I have in my perspective before we jump into the questions. And I think one very common misconception about sales ops is that, oh, you're only handling the CRM. I think you get that a lot as well, Sander, maybe. Like you're maybe handling the CRM, but it's just so much more than that. So it's all about, you know, the kind of sales processes that we have. So all the way from prospecting, where we use Viner, for example, to find the right target accounts, how we communicate in our messaging towards prospects, how we run our demos, how we run the full sales process, how we close them. So all of that just combined together. Of course, forecasting, which is all about how can we make sure that the reps understands the progression of the deal, the next steps, and when it's about to get closed in general. Different types of sales enablement. I mean, we expanded a lot during last year, went from 30 to 100 people in total. So the full onboarding process, how can we make sure that we give the reps the best possible foundation to actually succeed here at GetAccept, and how we do the post onboarding as well, and weekly trainings and so on. Different growth projects depending on the insights and analysis that we do here at GetAccept. So what types of initiatives do we need to do based on things that we need to improve? Different conversion points, maybe from MQL to deal created, could be different kind of things. And generally just sharing best practices and guides and making sure that everyone understands how we do things in the sales organization. And I could talk about the KPIs for a very long time, and I'm probably going to jump into those questions later, but just a couple of those. And I would say what we are focusing the most on is leading indicators to sales. And what is that? That is mainly number of calls and the number of opportunities that we create. So that are huge things that we are focusing a lot on. And here you can also see the full toolbox that we're using, that we're probably going to introduce a bit later as well. So I think you can click on the next slide.
Sounds good. And maybe one point that I want to highlight, if we have companies that are not in the software space, closed ARR in the KPIs stands for annual recurring revenue, right? That's ARR.
And ACV is your average contract value.
Sounds good.
Just over the routines that I have on a weekly basis, and there's a lot of things that I do since I also am self in the sales ops department. So it's a lot of going back and forth all the time. But of course, overseeing the CRM, analyze the sales performance both on a team and individual level, and try to find different kind of bottlenecks and improvement areas. And then I would say one of the most important thing is working closely with the local sales managers to both support and get support from them. So they are my customers, you could basically say. We have bi-weekly checkups with the SDR team that is actually booking and creating the opportunities, and the AEs that are closing them. So sales ops is actually owning those checkups. Of course, best practices and customer stories, so how we can share how our reference customers are using us. We can use that within our calls, within our demos, really getting that loop going. Of course, sales collateral, you're using GetAccept ourselves, so how can we make sure that that is up to date and being used in a proper way. But I'll also say one very important thing is to still be involved in sales meetings, still be also closing, because I'm closing myself, having a few meetings every month, but also to be very involved and actively see what do we actually need to improve. And we are using a tool called Chorus for that as well. But actively participating in meetings is a huge part as well. And then we have weekly internal training sessions to really share best practices and try to find things that we need to improve on different topics, basically. So I just want to highlight a couple of things that I do on a weekly basis.
Sounds good. Thanks for the presentations. Both of you have sort of similar background for the role. You started in sales, and I would imagine that you both did well in sales, so you know the company and the playbook, sales playbook, in and out. Do you feel that that's the best way to end up in sales ops, that you actually start doing sales, you learn how the playbook works, and then you start sort of scaling your own way of doing things inside sales ops? What do you say, Sander? Is that the best way to end up in sales ops as an individual, that you start in sales yourself?
In our team, 10 people, I would say 5 of them has a really solid experience within sales, and 5 of them not at all. It doesn't necessarily have to be like that, but I think it is essential that you have that sort of expertise within the group, because I mean, everything we do in our group, like, we feel that it's very important to stay focused on that. What we are doing is that we want to sell more. Like, that's the only thing that matters for us. Like, either it's long term or it's short term, but it's selling more that we're working with. And I think that it's very important that like a core group of people within a group like really understands the value creation process and how to speak with customers about those things if you want to create a strong team.
And Adam, you're reporting to your VP sales, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you mainly cover new business, or is it also existing customers? How's the definition?
I would say it's a bit of a mix. We have mainly split up, so we have 2 different roles. We have my role, which is sales ops, and then we have a retention manager who is more focusing on upsell, retention, gross net retention. So we have that split, but of course it's a mix because some processes are including the CSM team as well. But mainly it's new customer acquisition, I would say.
Yeah, and before the times when you did not have sales ops in place at GetAccept, I would imagine that these tasks that you're now overseeing, they were handled by VP sales. Am I right?
Yeah, exactly. So our CSO mainly handled a lot of those different tasks, and that is time that he could use, being with customers or helping the sales reps and teams. So thought a way to have someone to have 100% ownership of that.
Because in a way, you could almost say that VP sales and head of sales ops, they form a team, and it's really teamwork, because before sales ops, most likely it's VP sales trying to do all that, and then it's additional resources when you open up and set up sales ops. Sander, how is the collaboration between you and your VP sales? How do you divide and split sort of the tasks between you two?
Well, I'd say from the beginning when we formed it, I just wanted to concur that like our team was very much formed based on well the skill set of the people we had, but also like very much like based on the strengths and weaknesses of our sales director at Benify. I mean, we all have strengths and weaknesses, so we really like some of the parts we realized that this is something that he's responsible for today, but he doesn't necessarily have the time or focus to do it properly. So those things we took, but what we took a step back on are some very classic sales ops things like territorial, setting territories, commission models, just like the hands-on work with salespeople. That is something that he's still doing. So he's very sales focused, and we are the one who try to look a little bit further ahead, work more proactive.
And obviously you had some expectations, and the companies had some expectations for sales ops when building these teams. Now when you look back, what do you say, for example, Adam, what has been the most important achievement so far, something that sales ops has helped the company to achieve, maybe an improvement in a KPI or something like that?
Yeah, well, we have actually the last couple of months launched a lot of initiatives. One of them being we had a tool for, I think we implemented it in the beginning of last year, but no one really used it, I would say. So, and that is a tool for sales performance and analysis, where you can record your meetings and you can do different kind of analysis for the sales managers and the sales reps to give scorecards and feedback. Because we saw something that we needed to improve was the win rate, especially in our new countries. And that is something that's quite common when you're expanding, you're opening up a new country, you need to improve that as well. So that has actually been one of the main things and main tools that we're using as of now to, seeing that curve going in the right direction in terms of win rate, ACV, and also the sales cycle. So it's not about implementing tools. It's all about, of course, getting it out, getting understanding why you should have it and how you should use it in a good way.
How about you, Sander? Is it easy to pinpoint something that sales ops, or because of help sales ops, Benify has been able to improve? It's a complex sales process, or at least a very long sales process, but something that you could pinpoint as an achievement.
No, it's not that easy, because it's really everywhere. Like, we entangled ourselves throughout the whole organization. I think that like we are 10 people, 5, 6, 7 of those could have worked within another department, because they're really, well, for example, the RFP people, they could have worked within the sales department, because what they are doing is that they're selling through answering RFPs. But we chosen to have them in our team. So we're really everywhere. But those are a good example. Like, we gone from a couple of years ago, no one knew about Benify outside of the Nordic region. Now, when we are doing global RFPs, like these massive, the largest companies you could imagine, when they are doing RFPs, like, we are a top contender, and we're doing such a good job, winning them, pulling them home, and that's much of it is done within the team. So I think that is one of the things I like a lot.
I would just, in addition to that, like, it's hard because you do so many small things every day. Like, how do you feel, Sander? Do you feel like, is it hard to be measured within sales ops in general? Like, is it hard to measure sales ops, or what's your experience on that?
I think yes. I think another person than me who would be more meticulous and finding it more important than me to measure themselves, I would probably do a lot better job. I'm not that good in that area, and I think that's probably mainly because I feel that we have a lot of trust. Like, I know that the sales director sees the value. I know that the CEO sees the value, and that they trust that it's an ambitious group of people working within the team.
How about failures? Something that you have tried out, something you really believed in, but it didn't work out the way you planned. Do you have examples of that, something you have done at sales ops? Maybe Adam, you can go first.
Maybe I'm lucky, but we don't have that many, large failures to be honest. But of course, there are hiccups every day, and I think that's part of the role as well, because it's always things that you can improve. But I think one of the things is what I mentioned earlier. Like, we implemented a tool in the beginning of last year, which I would say, like, no one really used, because no one knew how to use it. No one knew the value and benefit of it. And now it's one of the most useful tools, and brings so much value. So I think it's a lot about change management and trying to explain the why behind it. Why should sales reps spend time if it's some kind of initiative or project or tool that we're implementing? But maybe it's a bad answer, but I don't have any like specific failures.
No, I think that's a good story anyways, about implementing a tool and maybe first not seeing high engagement with the tool, but then you had to sort of re-implement the tool and also sell the idea of it internally. Anything that pops up in your mind, Sander, about things that did not work out the way you planned?
Many things, but I'm thinking when Benify went international, I think it wasn't only sales operations, but we were definitely a part of it. We did tons of failures. Everything from, most of all, we were so successful in Sweden. We still are. We just thought that let's take this Swedish model and, for example, go to Germany. Like every country, Germany is the biggest economy in Europe. Let's go there. It's going to be awesome. But it was quite hard. We used the Swedish model. We tried to teach it to German salespeople. It was a culture crash between HQ and Germany, but it was also, yeah, it was our fault, like, because they were right. The German buyer is a totally different person than the Nordic buyer, and there we did a lot of mistakes that I wish that we could have done differently.
Thanks for sharing. It's time to do the next poll. Let me start that one. So I'm launching a new poll for the audience. So the question is, which of the following does your sales ops function focus on the most? And since we have 44% of the people who are not having sales ops, then feel free to answer anyways. What do you think they should focus on the most out of these three: technology, reporting, training, and onboarding? Fourth one could be, of course, traditional account planning and sort of market research. Actually have, yeah, and then other sales support as well. So please vote if you have your sales ops function, which one of the following they focus on the most. If you don't have, what do you think they should focus on? So we have 50% of the people have voted. So please give your input, and then now I'm gonna close the poll and share the results. There we go. At least for me, it's very surprising that no one said a training and or onboarding, but segmentation, so account planning, territory planning, and market research being the number one, and then it's pretty even between technology or tech stack for sales, reporting, and KPIs, and other sales support like pricing or incentives for salespeople. But let's start with segmentation and market research. How do you make sure, Adam, that sales ops is a proactive team when it comes to this type of market research and segmentation and account planning, and not only a support function? Because I can easily see that some people might see sales ops as a support function, but you can add even more value if you're very proactive. How do you make sure that sales ops is a very proactive team and actively thinking these ideas and not only being in a reactive mode?
Yeah. One thing that we actually did right now during COVID-19 was to look at our ICP, and I know that's a lot of that Vino has been talking about as well, because we knew that a lot of the both customers but also prospects that we are reaching out to some of them have a lot of problems as of now due to the problems in the world. So what we did was basically to redefine our ICP based on, of course, what the circumstances was, because we knew both that some had problems, but also that there was a lot of different opportunities, because many of the sales organizations as of today are going to have to change how they are doing sales in a remote way, and we also knew that where we come into the process. So that's the way that we did, and just looked a lot at the data combined with a bit of gut feeling. But I also think having a close collaboration with the sales managers, looking at the data, and then giving suggestions and showing insights to what needs to be improved in general, that will then of course be driving more proactive initiatives as well.
And I'm still showing you the poll results. Sander, since you run a large sales ops team and most likely you to some extent focus on all these different topics, are you surprised with the answers or anything? What are your thoughts regarding the poll results you see in front of you?
I'm actually most surprised about the alternatives that we have. Like, we don't really I don't really see the whole expertise part in sales ops, which I think is super common, that you're actually joining meetings such as we do, such as Adam does, which I think is like the support function hands-on, that we don't have that whole thing, because that's really what I think is the most defining thing for us. But otherwise, no, I'm not really supportive about the rest based on this. I think reporting KPIs is obviously something that is often done together with owning the tech stack. So it's pretty natural.
What do you think? Why was it 0% in training and onboarding? What's your thoughts around that? I'm just curious.
God, the shame. We are responsible for training and onboarding in sales ops. Do we do it? No. We only do the onboarding, which is essential because since it's such a complex product to sell, it's really hard to onboard new people. So we're putting like tons of effort on it. Training wise, we just had an initiative in the beginning of this year that we're going to launch, and then COVID sort of messed it up a bit, but that's definitely on the menu for us as soon as we can start doing it.
Because I think otherwise that a lot of the, of course, if you owned onboarding as the sales ops department as well, but a lot of the, the ownership lies on the sales managers as well to train the reps on a local level. But I think it's also good for the sales ops department to have that ownership of the training while having the support from the local sales managers.
Yeah, I think like I have one of my colleagues has done a fantastic job creating like an onboarding journey for new employees. Like if we're going to be self-critical, which I like to be, like historically onboarding is like, here you go, 2 days course, boom, onboarded, here you have a phone or whatever. But she has really developed like a year-long plan that has some like tons of actual actions that you have to do, and no one can miss them, not the sales rep, and especially not the sales manager. Like the sales manager needs to take ownership to put everyone through the onboarding journey. So I think that is really essential for a company like Benify, especially.
Let's talk about KPIs. I'm going to open up the slide that I saw from you, Adam. So I just want to understand what happens. Let's say that these are the KPIs and you have discussed with sales management. You mentioned that you focus heavily on these leading indicators. So let's say that number of deals created or number of calls is something that you see that, hey, this is actually now something we really want to improve. What are the concrete actions you can do as sales ops manager to start driving a certain KPI up?
That was a very broad question, but of course it could be different things. It could be like implementing a new tool, for example, having instead of calling for a phone, maybe calling from the CRM or having an external part, for example. It could be how to make sure we are prospecting in a much easier way, or actually routing the leads automatically. So it could be very different things, but I think what you need to understand as well is what is that going to lead in after that. Yeah. So if we do number of calls, what is that going to lead? Probably number of deals created will go up. We will maybe have the still win rate because we haven't improved on that, but in the long run we will hopefully close more revenue. So having that full overview, I think makes sense.
And are you, Adam, also then responsible for implementing the plan when you have a plan, for example, to improve average contract value or improving number of calls? Then you create a plan. Is it you or is it often VP sales who's then implementing the plan, or do you do it together?
It's a mix, I think. I might come up with the plan together with the VP sales, and then together with the sales management, which is of course the local sales manager as well. We come up with a mutual plan to roll this out to the sales organization, because what you need is commitment from the local sales managers, because if you don't have their commitment, you won't get the reps commitment as well. So I think that's a very important part to be best friends with the local sales managers as well. But usually sales ops is doing it on more central level and then trying to roll it out through the local sales managers.
Sander,
I agree.
these are the things that you mentioned as focus areas. Do you have a feeling that everyone at Benify, everyone in sales, that they know what sales ops is doing? I'm trying to understand the collaboration between salespeople and sales ops team. How well do you feel salespeople at Benify know that these are the things sales ops can help with?
I think it's quite different depending on, I mean, some of the people are at the same office as us and understand quite a lot more. And I think it's also like, it's quite like our portfolio of what we're doing is also quite diversified depending on, like, for example, advisory, like us acting as experts. That is something that we're doing for the absolute largest enterprises we're meeting, and not something we're maybe doing for the smaller ones. So they probably don't really know that much about that opportunity, which they shouldn't. But yes, I think we are quite good at Benify. I think that they have a quite reasonable idea of what we're doing.
And one thing that we have discussed at Vine a lot, and I know that we have lots of software salespeople in the audience and people who are selling services, solutions, and tools for sales and marketing today. But now when more and more companies have sales ops function in place, it also means that sales ops is a very important buying center. So I guess you're also dealing with lots of vendors. My question is, like, what's the best way to start a sales process when you're selling to sales operations? Because you must deal with salespeople all the time, also other companies, external people trying to sell to you. Because I'm just curious, it's a new buying center for many, because maybe in the past they sold to VP sales or VP marketing, and now these individuals say that, hey, you need to speak with sales ops first. What do you appreciate in sales when somebody approaches you? Maybe you can go first, Adam.
Yeah. So I think all of us here receive a tons of email on a daily basis that all looks the same. So I think, you know, using data, being relevant is all that matters in these times. And you know, looking at the news, seeing what's happening, and try to be relevant in your outreaches, and also be very personal, because if you're this generic BDR, for example, that reaches out with a standard email template, I mean, you won't get a good open rate or reply rate at least. So I think that's the first one. And then the second one that I would like to add is to pick up the phone. Pick up the phone, call the customer, be personal, laugh, and be yourself. So that's my two ways of being having a meeting booked with me.
Sounds good. Anything that you want to add, Sander?
No, actually, I really agree with Adam. Like, I love myself a phone call from a salesperson. Like, being a salesperson in general, I think that we are the best people in the world to sell to. Like, on a personal level, I would buy something I completely don't need if someone is just a really good salesperson, because I'm like, yes, you earned this. My wife doesn't really like that part of me, but I think that's important. I think that the messaging for selling someone who's working within sales ops is the same as selling to the sales director. Like, it's show me the money, show me where I'm earning on it, and yeah, then you have my interest.
And yeah, thanks. Good tips for salespeople. Many of the people in the audience or salespeople, of course. 44% of the companies or people in the audience do not have sales ops team at the moment, but many of them might be planning to set up one in the future. You just started out of or from scratch, Adam. Like, what's your best piece of advice? What to do first if you have decided that, okay, we want to set up a sales ops function? Piece of advice for the company that has decided to do so, and also for the individual who's going to be the sales ops manager. How do you get started?
First off, what I would do if I would do this again is to build a really good, especially I would say if you are outside the company, If you're within the company and you are promoted to sales ops, for example, then you probably have a good relationship with everyone in the company. But really see the sales managers as your best friends forever. Those are the persons that will help you, you will help them, and you will have a really, really close relationship. So try to build that as early as possible. And then, of course, to really have a good foundation with all of the data. Try to track the KPIs as early as possible. See what you need to improve as of now. And then I would say both have a long term, of course, set the yearly plan, but also look at the short term and find those low-hanging fruits, because you will also build a lot of trust internally if you are implementing some kind of initiatives that you actually see results of quickly. And that will help you in the long run as well, building your trust within the company.
Very
Good,
good. Yeah, Sander, go ahead.
No, it was a good one, Adam. I think that most organizations, out of those 44%, I think that many of them have various kinds of people who are supporting in sales. Maybe they're not doing that full time, it's scattered around the organization. What I think is that if you are like this small piece of the puzzle in aiding sales, it might be quite hard to understand your role fully, to understand your goals fully, to feel fully engaged and productive. And I think that it's nothing scary just starting like an actual function within the organization, which you call sales operations. What it is really is that, with the risk of demystifying it, I mean, it is a template that exists. Someone super smart has thought about how can you organize your sales support unit. And what it does is that it creates really clear objectives, really clear roles within your organization. And it also creates a really good distinction between the sales support and the sales director, which really facilitates productivity in the end. So I think that just Google sales operations. What do they do? Look at the templates, choose whatever you like, and then use that as a baseline.
And I can also, in addition to that, as we discussed, I think earlier as well, like look at, if you're a sales manager or sales director, for example, look at what is your weaknesses and what do you need help with, because there's probably a lot of people that are better than you with some tasks or some initiatives that can be run within the company. So what do you need help with that someone else can do in a better way, and then try to build the sales ops department around that, because there's a lot of different templates on how sales ops should be set up, but I think that doesn't mean that it has to look the same for everyone.
Good point. Good point. If anyone in the audience wants to ask questions, I saw at least one question already coming in. We'll take that one in a moment, but feel free to ask and we'll then jump into them in a moment. One thing that I want to ask from you, Sander, is talent acquisition, like finding talent. You have been built sales ops team. Yesterday when you and I spoke and we prepared a little bit, you mentioned an interesting thing about sales ops sort of opening up new opportunities for individuals who might not maybe otherwise end up working with sales. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to talent acquisition to sales ops, there's two avenues. One of them is the really good salesperson who just can't see themselves picking up the phone when they are 64 years old, and sales ops can be a really good place for them as a next step. But the other interesting thing that I realized is that there's a really, really huge pool of people who are extremely talented, who think that there is nothing more fun than being able to affect a company's results by working in sales, but they would never ever see themselves picking up the phone. So they don't search for a sales job ever. But when you have a sales operations department, you can offer them to work within sales, but in a more indirect way. And what I realized working in Benify and recruiting a lot of people to our team is that the people I have, they are incredibly fantastic. Like we really, really attract both internally from other departments, but also externally, absolute top talent to our team, which I think is really interesting.
Very good. Thanks for the tips. I also feel all different ways how we can attract even more talent to be actively involved in sales, the better it is. And I think that's a good point you're making, that sales ops provides that. Let me look at the question we received from the audience. There's lots of them. So I'm just reading this one, and I believe this one could go to you, Sander. Speaking of failures, I treated more than 100 RFPs in my career, with a few converted ones within consulting and SaaS world, despite our great proposal. And the person says that I feel like RFPs mostly are won in advance or are won through referrals. What do you think or recommend as a sales ops expert on RFP conversion rate? How to improve win rate with these tenders and requests for proposals in those processes? What do you say, Sander?
That's a monster question, but I mean, we're working on that one right now. I mean, one of the things that we started doing, especially in these COVID times, when we're actually working a lot more proactive than we usually do, is that after every RFP, whether we win it or we lose it, we always have a really solid meeting with really solid people analyzing it into every bits, and then we put up some metrics, and we're seeing like how did we follow them, and very often we see, just as you say, that the RFP is actually very often won before or lost before we even answered it. So the conclusions we done is that we need to start working with the customers way earlier, which is the least we can expect from ourselves, especially when it is existing customers, because we can lose those as well, and ensure that we are what they think about when they go to an RFP. But it's a broad question.
It is. Adam, because there's so many things, so many tasks, so many responsibilities, where do you document all this? Do you have like a sales playbook for the team that sales ops owns, and that's sort of the guideline everyone is following, or how do you work in terms of documenting all these best practices?
Yeah, so I would say first off, for the CRM, we have a rigorous CRM guide that everyone is using. But then we also have a sales playbook that is taught, I would say, even before the rep starts, even before the onboarding, and is basically trained and presented during we have 2 weeks of onboarding here at GetAccept, where we present the culture and the background of the company and really get the commitment from that. And then of course we have a week with the full sales process, and that's part of the sales playbook, which is covering different parts. We try to, during the onboarding, really explain that in a good way. But then of course also to follow up on it, on those checkups, and a playbook that is updated on a continuous basis that everyone can just look at. But yeah.
And most sales directors, they really want salespeople to use CRM in a systematic way, and I would imagine that's also the goal for sales ops. So Sander, what are your tips for getting people to use the CRM the right way?
I mean, I think that's like you will never get 100% success rate on this one, but for us, we're just humble to that repetition is something that we have to live with. It's always hard because different people have begun at different times. Maybe someone got a really sloppy onboarding to this, and maybe someone got a really good one. But repetition is the key. And then I think that we also try to make it interesting by also changing stuff from time to time. It's like once you have something new, that's just another way of actually doing repetition. And the third tip, which is actually good, which I thought about right now, is also like once we start extracting cool data from the CRM, once you're starting extracting cool data on their numbers, then you get like a self-interest to put it in. And I think that is something that we've done really good lately. So we'll see the results of that initiative.
Yeah, and I think that part is really important, you know, that the rep is understanding why is a CRM important from the first in the first place, but also of course to you know, use the CRM to help them push the deal forward and to help them to work in a more efficient way. But I also have one last tip that I would like to share, and that is to find someone within each office that you have as a champion for your different platforms. That could be the CRM, that could be the, you know, proposal e-signing tool. Just finding that champions that can help and spread that positive vibe and internal knowledge is usually what works quite well as well.
Excellent points. Last question for both of you, very briefly. What do you think is the biggest benefit in having a sales ops function? Like number one benefit of having a sales ops function? Maybe Sander, you can come up with your.
Okay, for me, it's super clear. It is that we get everything under one roof. We get an overview. We can prioritize. We can strategize, and actually take good decisions for ourselves and for Benify as a whole. I think that since the majority, or not the majority, but 44% didn't have sales ops or very few, I feel that the biggest benefit for them would be the clear role descriptions, the clear goals, the clear objectives. People like that. People very often need to have that, and I think that this type of organization can actually deliver on that very good.
Excellent. And you, Adam?
Yeah, I totally agree, and also to you know, find people that will do it. Now I hear myself. Find people that would do it in a much better way than you're doing. Having everything in one. It is very annoying actually.
We can hear you well. Yeah.
You can. Okay, I hear myself. But yeah. Just finding someone that can do the parts and getting everything under control and heading into one direction, especially if you're scaling, I would say.
Okay, excellent. And maybe Sander and Adam, I can see that some people in the audience hear some echoes, so if you can mute yourself for a while, that would be good. It's time to wrap it up. First of all, thank you so much, Sander and Adam, for being panelists. Thanks everyone for joining and listening in. We'll make sure that the recording is available, and if your VP sales or your sales ops people did not join today, feel free to share the recording with them. I think there are not too many sales ops communities, for example, in the Nordics yet. There are some, but not too many. So I know also that Sander and Adam are more than happy to connect with you on LinkedIn and keep sharing best practices. I think it's very important for all companies and for sales development that there's an active discussions going on about best practices in sales ops. But thanks everyone for joining. Recording will be available, and I wish everyone an excellent week, and thank you so much for listening in. Thank you. Bye.